Most people assume that eating more fish is one of the safest things they can do for their brain. I'm going to show you why that assumption, for a growing number of adults over 60, may be causing the exact damage they're trying to prevent. I've been a practicing neurologist in Chicago for over 22 years. My name is Dr. Elias Thorne. I've worked with more than 4,000 patients experiencing cognitive symptoms, memory gaps, mental fog, word retrieval failures, and in my clinical experience, one of the most consistent patterns I've encountered is this. The people who believe they are doing everything right are often the ones whose brains are silently struggling the most. Here's the study I want you to hear. A 2021 analysis published in the journal Environmental Health Perspectives examined adults between the ages of 65 and 85 who consumed high quantities of fish, particularly tuna, swordfish, and tilapia, more than 3 times per week. These were not people living near industrial sites. These were ordinary adults following mainstream health advice. The findings showed measurable elevations in methylmercury concentrations in their bloodstream, alongside statistically significant declines in processing speed and verbal memory. They were following the rules, and their brains were paying for it. Now, I am not telling you to stop eating fish. What I am telling you is that the story is far more complicated than what most people are being told. And that complexity is exactly what we are going to unpack today. Because if you are 60 or older and you care about your brain, not just today but 5 years from now, you need to understand what is actually happening inside your neurons, not just what sounds reasonable on the surface. Let's start with why the brain becomes so vulnerable after 60 in the first place. This is the biological reality that most health content glosses over. Around your late 50s, your brain begins to produce measurably less of an enzyme called glutathione peroxidase. That enzyme is your brain's primary defense system against oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is what happens when free radicals, unstable oxygen molecules generated by normal metabolism, toxin exposure, and yes, heavy metals like mercury, begin to attack the lipid membranes surrounding your neurons. Think of those membranes the way you'd think of insulation on an electrical wire. When the insulation degrades, the signal gets distorted. Messages slow down. Connections misfire. That is not a metaphor. That is the literal mechanism behind age-related cognitive decline. At the same time, your brain's glymphatic system, the waste-clearing network that flushes neurotoxins during deep sleep, becomes less efficient. A 2019 paper from the University of Rochester Medical Center demonstrated that glymphatic flow in adults over 65 was reduced by up to 40% compared to younger adults. That means the very system designed to remove compounds like beta-amyloid and heavy metal byproducts from your brain is working at less than full capacity, and when you keep loading the system with mercury from contaminated fish, you are pouring water into a drain that is already almost completely clogged. This is not theoretical risk. This is measurable biology. Now, let me address the second trap, the one that almost nobody talks about. It is not just about what you eat. It is about what your brain is no longer able to absorb efficiently. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically DHA and EPA, are genuinely critical for neuronal membrane integrity. That part of the conventional wisdom is correct. But here is what is not being said. After 60, the conversion pathway your body uses to process short-chain omega-3s into long-chain DHA is significantly compromised. Research from the Lipid Nutrition Laboratory at Purdue University showed that conversion rates in older adults can be as low as 4%. That means the standard flaxseed supplement, the chia seeds in your smoothie, the walnuts everyone tells you to eat, 85 to 96% of that omega-3 may never reach your brain in usable form. You are following advice designed for a 40-year-old metabolism, and your brain is not 40. There are also specific compounds that neuroscience has identified as mechanistically important for cognitive function that most people have never heard of, because they don't have a simple marketing story. Phosphatidylserine is one of them. It is a phospholipid that exists naturally in neuronal membranes and plays a direct role in the signaling pathways used in memory formation. A randomized, double-blind trial published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging showed that adults over 60 who supplemented with phosphatidylserine demonstrated statistically significant improvements in delayed verbal recall compared to placebo in just 12 weeks. The FDA has even acknowledged a qualified health claim linking phosphatidylserine to reduced risk of cognitive dysfunction in older adults. This is not fringe science. This is peer-reviewed, replicated research. Lion's mane mushroom extract is another. And I want to be precise here. Not the raw mushroom, but standardized hericenones and erinacines, the active compounds that stimulate nerve growth factor synthesis. A double-blind, placebo-controlled trial out of Japan showed measurable improvements in cognitive function scores in adults aged 50 to 80 who supplemented for 16 weeks. When supplementation stopped, scores declined. That tells you something important. This was a biological effect, not a placebo response. Bacopa monnieri has been studied in over 20 randomized controlled trials. Its active compounds, bacosides, have been shown to reduce the enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine in the brain. Acetylcholine is the primary neurotransmitter involved in memory encoding. Protecting it is not optional for brain health after 60. It is foundational. And then there is magnesium L-threonate. Specifically this form because it is the only magnesium compound demonstrated to cross the blood-brain barrier effectively. Animal studies and early human data suggested increases synaptic density in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, the exact regions most vulnerable to age-related decline. If you've been watching this and thinking, I didn't know most of this and I've been trying to take care of my brain for years, that is exactly why I keep making these videos. And if you want to know what I actually found for my patients, the formulation that pulls these specific compounds together, check the pinned comment below. I'll point you to exactly what I've been recommending. Don't scroll past it. We'll keep going. I want to tell you about Robert. He lives in Texas, and when I spoke with him, he was 69. He had been eating salmon 4 times a week for 3 years. He was taking a standard fish oil supplement every day. He came to me because his wife noticed he was losing words mid-sentence and repeating questions he had asked 20 minutes earlier. His mercury levels were elevated. His DHA status was actually suboptimal, despite all that fish. Within 4 months of addressing the mercury exposure and supporting his brain with the compounds I just described, Robert told me his wife stopped finishing his sentences for him. He said his mind felt available again. That was the word he used. Available. Bill is 73, from Ohio. He was convinced his memory issues were just aging. It's just what happens, he told me. He had written it off. What was actually happening was significant oxidative stress and poor glymphatic clearance, measurable on his labs, addressable with the right support. 6 weeks in, he called my office to report that he finished a novel. He said he hadn't been able to follow a book plot in 2 years. Frank is 71, from Michigan. He had tried 3 different supplements before finding the right combination. He was frustrated and skeptical. He told me supplements were snake oil. But Frank's issue was specificity. The compounds he had tried were not targeting the mechanisms responsible for his particular pattern of cognitive slippage. When the right compounds were aligned to the right biological targets, the skeptic became a convert. Frank now tells his friends at his weekly poker game what he's learned. I take that as a high compliment. George from Pennsylvania, 66, came to me early. He didn't have dramatic symptoms yet. He had a family history of dementia, and he was not going to wait to become a statistic. That proactive approach is exactly what I recommend. The research is clear. The window to meaningfully support brain health is not when the symptoms are severe. It is now. It is while the system is still responsive to intervention. What I need you to take from this video is not fear. What I need you to take is precision. Your brain is not failing because you've been lazy. It's being failed by incomplete information. Mercury in your healthy fish. Omega-3s that can't complete the conversion. A glymphatic system working at half capacity. These are not inevitable. They are addressable, but only if you understand the mechanism, not just the headline. The research behind what I explained today converges on one point. I found a formulation that combines exactly these compounds. The link is in the pinned comment. I've reviewed the sourcing, the standardization of the active compounds, and the dosing rationale. It reflects the current evidence base, not the evidence from 15 years ago, the current evidence. Go to the pinned comment right now. Read it before you close this video. Because the gap between knowing this and doing something about it is the only thing standing between your brain today and your brain at 75.